Rishi Sunak has won the race to be the leader of the Conservative Party and will become Britain's next Prime Minister. The first Indian origin UK Prime Minister faces the task of steering the economically floundering nation days after his predecessor, Liz Truss, stepped down, conceding defeat. After the outgoing Prime Minister, Truss chaired a final cabinet meeting and delivered her final address. Sunak is going to be invited to form the government by King Charles III. At age 42, Rishi Sunak is also the youngest and the first person of colour to hold this post. Congratulating Rishi Sunak, Prime Minister Modi tweeted that he was looking forward to working closely together on global issues. Modi also wished Sunak a happy Diwali, calling him a living bridge of UK Indians. Liz Truss has just given her farewell speech. She is on her way to the Buckingham Palace to meet King Charles III. Take a look.
Our country continues to battle through a storm. But I believe in Britain. I believe in the British people. And I know that brighter days lie ahead. And I wish Rishi Sunak every success for the good of our country. I look forward to spending more time in my constituency and continuing to serve South West Norfolk from the backbenches.
Jonathan Gilbert now joins us live for the very latest on this. Jonathan, what next? Liz Truss has given a farewell speech. She's on her way to the Buckingham Palace. She's about to meet King Charles III. And as you were telling me yesterday, it's about time that the king says toodaloo to her.
Yes, absolutely. Sorry, I slightly regret that turn of phrase now in retrospect. But she has arrived at Buckingham Palace. You may even be able to see it now. There's a helicopter overhead filming her arrival. She walked in there are no cameras in this room, in this famous ceremonial room in Buckingham Palace, and perhaps for good reason, because I imagine it's quite a banal scene, actually. She simply offers her resignation and then leaves via the back door. What's more interesting is that Rishi Sunak is probably in a motorcade, even as we speak, racing on his way to Buckingham Palace, and then he will arrive through the front door, and the king will ask him to form a government. So it's all very ceremonial, it's all very choreographed, but that's how we do things around here. And at that point, he will then drive straight from there to Downing Street, which is just like, 5 minutes walk from where I'm standing, and then he will deliver his first ever speech as the official Prime Minister of the country. And he's got an awful lot of work to do, as we've been discussing ad infinitum over the last 24 hours.
Well, waiting for that speech coming in from Rishi Sunak, indeed. Jonathan, continue to be with us on this broadcast. Rishi Sunak has won the race to be the leader of the Conservative Party and will become Britain's next Prime Minister. The former Treasury Chief will be Britain's first leader of colour and faces the task of stabilising the party and country at a time of economic and political turbulence. Here's a report.
Britain is getting its first Prime Minister of Indian descent. Rishi Sunak has finally won the race to enter 10 Downing Street. He is set to become the country's third Prime Minister in 7 weeks and fifth in 6 years.
I am humbled and honoured to have the support of my parliamentary colleagues and to be elected as leader of the Conservative and Unionist Party. It is the greatest privilege of my life to...
Jonathan is also with us on this broadcast. Jonathan, the countdown has truly begun for the speech of Rishi Sunak. All eyes on that. So what's the countdown looking like at the moment?
Well, absolutely. I mean, I don't have access. I can actually hear the helicopter above my head as we speak, which is filming the Sunak and Truss motorcades, which incidentally have to be choreographed in order not to literally collide with each other. But as far as I'm aware, Liz Truss has entered Buckingham Palace and has always in the process of tendering her resignation to King Charles III, at which point she literally, by tradition, leaves via the back door. So that there's no coronation, there's no big floods of tears. They literally slip out the back door and wait for the new Prime Minister to arrive. I think any second now, Rishi Sunak's motorcade will be arriving at Buckingham Palace, and then he will proceed inside and will ask to form a government. And the King, King Charles III, will confer upon him the ability to form a government, sitting as he does, with a very healthy majority within the House of Parliament behind me, conferred upon him, ironically, as I said earlier, by Boris Johnson himself. At that point, he emerges from Buckingham Palace via the front door, proceeds to Downing Street, just down the road here, and then he delivers his first ever speech as Prime Minister. And with that act in itself begins to commences the process of governing this fractious and very troubled realm of his.
Yeah, you're right, because he did warn of economic challenge as he prepares to become the Prime Minister as well, and we're hoping to hear what he has to say on that front as well, because that's going to be the biggest challenge as the Prime Minister of United Kingdom at the moment.
Oh yes, absolutely. I mean, he has an enormous in-tray on his desk. Spiraling cost of living, inflation through the roof, 10% as it stands at the moment. Huge government debts. He's going to be facing an enormous number of challenges. I mean, but he is a practiced economist. He got us through the pandemic. He imposed this hugely controversial FOLO scheme, which essentially handed out billions of pounds to people in return for staying at home and not working, and the country's still trying to pay that off. So he's going to be looking about how to slash public spending and how to increase government revenue, somehow possibly by increasing taxes. It's a very tough job, especially for a Conservative leader, who the Conservative Party obviously traditionally is low taxation and low spending. So let's wait and see what he has to do. I think the big, one of the other very fascinating questions is what's going to happen to the cabinet now. I mean, this cabinet, ridiculously, some members of this cabinet have been in their posts for less than a week. Grant Shapps, the Home Secretary, may well be out of the door in less than a week, which would undoubtedly make him the shortest serving Home Secretary in the history of British parliamentary government. The Health Secretary, we think possibly Jeremy Hunt, the Chancellor, is likely to be retained in this post simply for the purpose of reassuring the financial markets. But the other posts, all bets are off, quite frankly, and you know, he's going to have to impose his authority on a new cabinet and, by extension, a new government.